an online history that may show how this person may have tried to contact her before. Mars in the ninth house would be the perpetrator planned it. Trash is a big theme in this chart. Mars is at the top of the chart at the MC. Now, MC is also like somebody's work. Mars is military and retrograde. It kind of shows somebody like an example. I'm not saying that this is it, but it would be like, oh, he dropped out. Xana was typing into her phone before she died, was Queen. So,
oh my God, you're kidding me. Look what card flew out. The Queen of Cups. I got the King of Wands. And then there's the lion in the back. And this card always comes up, Val.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Val Evans. Thanks for joining me tonight. I am with Amy J, and we are talking about the Kohberger defense. And there's been a lot of questions and thoughts and comments about how vegans basically have an affinity towards living things. And why would he be a killer? Vegans don't kill. We've heard over and over. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And I'm going to bring Amy J on in 1 second. Thank you all for coming in tonight, and hit the subscribe button if you can. I am basically, I've been pretty busy lately, so it's been a little while since I've been on, and you haven't seen Amy in a while either. So it's going to be a great discussion tonight. We've got a lot of charts, we've got a lot of cards, and if you are new to forensic astrology, it is basically the study of timestamps and the timestamp of the crime, which is called a crime chart. So we look at that, we analyze it, we pull cards, we try to get some predictions. And in some of those clues that you just saw in the opener, those were all what we got right in November 2022 before we knew anything. And some of the clues very early on, if you see some of our early videos, was something about Taurus related things as well as Scorpio. And way before we knew who Kohberger was, we pulled out Scorpio, and we kind of got the idea that there was some kind of revenge element. And then on the other side of that, which is the Taurus Scorpio axis, we could see some themes and could even see that there might be some clues that have to do with food. So even brought in a few psychics. Amy J was one of them, and have gotten some great clues. Pizza came out right in the very beginning. I think it was maybe the first few weeks, because Gemini represents pizza. And so just recently, I think it was brought to my attention that pizza boxes were found outside of the rental property, which was at 1122 King Road. So let's get started. Amy J, there we go. How are you doing, Amy?
Hello, I'm doing great. And I just have to laugh about the Gemini pizza. My son-in-law's a Gemini, and he's obsessed with pizza. So I'm just like going, yeah, that's true.
I know it is. It's amazing. And there are clues that can be found. There are crimes.
And trash.
And
I'm
trash.
talking about pizza and trash.
And trash.
So that's interesting too.
Yeah. So it's super important, because that's where we find evidence, clues, and all this information that comes out later on. So, well, I don't want to put you on the spot, Amy, but I'm thinking we should get a card for tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
And while you shuffle, I'll just say hello to everyone. Well, thank you, Join Jen. Great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Lisa, nice to see you. Fallon, thank you very much. And Toy, of course, always good to see you. And Angel D, yes, BK used to work at a pizza shop in Pennsylvania, allegedly. So something we didn't know when we were talking about pizza early on in those days. And Forensic Astro, that's Grace. Good to see you. She's saying hello to Amy as well. And Juggy Jones is in the house. So nice to see you. Fallon says, video shows the pizza box outside in the trash, never taken in for testing by law enforcement. So, and we did see that often in those early days when we didn't know anything. We knew that there would be some slip ups by law enforcement because Mars is in retrograde for this crime chart. So, hello, Kemi. Nice to see you. All right. So, Amy J, what do we have?
Well, this is really, really interesting because this card's come out before when I've asked about the energy for, I just said, well, what's the energy for tonight? What are we going to be talking about? It's kind of interesting. Now, this one I think is really interesting. Both of them are interesting. But this one is the emotional loss card, number 5, emotional loss. So,
Very interesting. And
yeah, he's got his hand in his heart and stuff like that. But obviously, this is a very emotional case, and we are talking about loss, so that it kind of makes sense. But the other one is the one that we had before when we talked about what's the energy around what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
we got patience and planning with the 2 pillars, number 7. Over here. See the 2 pillars, patience and planning, and it represents the 4 seasons. It's a number 7. We've got like the fall is right in the middle, and then winter is over here with some snowflakes, some rain on this side, and the sun right here. So I feel like the energy of we're going to be talking about is maybe the planning, the timing, and of course, you can't talk about this without feeling the emotional loss too. But it's funny that we've got this tower card. I call it tower because last time we kind of went to twin towers, the clock towers, a lot of Gemini.
Oh, exactly. And that is the tower card. It says tower on it.
It's not.
Oh, good. Because I didn't want that. I was like, don't give me
that good idea. Card. No, it's no. It's not the tower card per se in the traditional tarot.
It's a tough one.
Looked at it like the twin towers.
The twin, exactly. And that came up again. The twins. We always have that as that theme. Now, of course, we're talking about the murders on November 13th, 2022 on King Road. And it happened reportedly around 4:20, something like that. And we have to remember that there were 4 innocent victims, all friends. One who was not supposed to be there, which was Ethan. He obviously his girlfriend was there, and maybe it was an impromptu invitation for him to be there. But normally he was not a resident there. So I just wanted to get that, in part of the discussion. And also, emotional loss is interesting because that's going to come up with some of my charts. It's interesting how that's part of the theme of what I'm seeing. So Fallon says lots of twinning.
Yes. And the other thing I think that I had heard Kaylee's dad say that she only came back that night to show her car off, but she had an exam the next day. So instead of waiting, come and taking her exam and leaving, she came back the night before to show her car off. So That's interesting too.
Exactly. That's a good point. Things are fated. Things just happen, on a moment's notice that you can't control. And Angel D is saying, I keep getting Ace of Wands inverted, setback, lack of action, disappointment with the trial.
Yeah.
There seems to be something that's coming up around February, from what I'm getting in the charts, where there is a complete block, and that goes with what you were saying in an earlier show, where your visions or your downloads included an empty courtroom. So we're wondering what is going on with that. I'm also getting that
Mm.
Uranus is a big, big part coming in the next few months. That can also show that somebody wants to commit suicide. So I think that
Oh,
we don't know. And actually, Uranus can also represent a cell phone tower. So going back to your card that you just pulled, that the
oh,
tower is really going to play a part here. But
okay.
suicide or unaliving oneself, it's going to come into play. I think that he was
Mm.
completely shocked, judging from his charts that I'm seeing right now, which I'm going to show you. It looks as if he is going into a deep depression. And Saturn, if he isn't already, Saturn is also getting to the part where his natal Saturn is positioned, which means he's going through a Saturn return, which is extremely painful for the average person.
Mm.
And so he is, karma is really coming at him in a very intense way. So,
Mhm.
Debbie, thanks for saying that. And okay, so Toy saying he seems to be waiting for all the evidence, but not so much. Oh, his wife. Are we talking about the same thing, or are we talking about Rex? By the way, I will be online tomorrow night talking about Rex Sauerman, the serial killer, and the deal that apparently is being made with Netflix and his wife. It's got
Oh,
a lot of people talking, and it reminds me of this book, If I Did It. If you remember, there was a lot of
oh,
controversy with OJ selling his story, which he never got that money. So, but
oh, talking about what Amy said about Kaylee's dad. That's what she meant.
okay, thanks, Toy.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
They do kind of seem like they're in different places, let's just say, with the whole thing.
Exactly. So, so what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen, and
Mhm.
this is what I decided to do. Hopefully, you can see this, and let me know if you can see my pen.
Yes.
Okay, good. Uh, 1 second. Okay. All right. So this is the chart for the crime, and it is overlaid over Kohberger's birth chart. Okay. So his birth chart, he is in the inside, and the crime chart is on the outside. And the one thing that I couldn't help but notice, if this is all correct and rectified perfectly, uh, Mars represents his hidden enemy. Okay. And this is in general. And this goes back to vegan. Mars is meat. Okay. So Mars, anything Mars might represent hidden enemies to him. And so where do we have, and I'm going to do this with his birth chart actually, because it's a lot easier to figure out. But Mars represents his hidden enemies, and it is what is in the house of hidden enemies. There are 3 points here. This is somebody who is shocking him. Uranus is to shock, to surprise. And there is do you see this huge, it's like a red line, and it's
Yeah, that's
pointed.
big.
It's pointed to people potentially in his work. Okay. So that's not helping matters in this case. He is pretty irritated with what's going on at his place of work. Now, it could also be somebody else's place of work, but notice that the nodes, and I have an arrow here for the nodes. This is a nodal return right here. And it often shows when someone is having a reality check. And when you have Uranus near the reality check, this is like, whoa, like I did not expect that. He's going through, he meaning Kohberger on the inside, his planets are on the inside. This is his moon, this is his Mars. There are some people here, and this is in the orange, that are bothering him somehow. I think it might have to do with work. Okay, so first of all, that's going on with him. Now, we also have, I'm going to come back to this because I want to talk more about Mars, which is meat and how it is affected in his chart. Let's go to some of the questions first. Fallon says her DM begged Kay to come back that weekend to be her +1 at a party, then heard this week. I think Kay's mom said in an interview that DM even drove to Kay's parents' house to beg Kay to come back. So that's interesting.
It is.
Okay. DM drove to Boise to get her to come. Okay. So there's some things that are coming out. Hi, Penny D. Good to see you. And so, all right. So let me go back to, and I wanted to put together a comparison with Kohberger and somebody else who I may have mentioned. Let's see. 1 second. Why isn't it showing up? 1 sec. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm going to come back to this one. This is pretty important because you can see how much, I mean, this is nuts. This is absolute crisis. It is, and look at Mars here at the bottom. Oops. Mars at the bottom shows a downfall, okay? And it looks like his hidden enemy. So that's one of the things I was going to actually ask you if you wanted to do a card.
Okay.
There's somebody here who surprised him in some way, it seems. And Mars is in Leo, which means king. Could it be that house? Could there be somebody who bothered him in some way? Who was his hidden enemy? So I wanted to ask you what you thought about that.
So are you talking about a hidden enemy at work or just anywhere in general? Who could this be?
I mean, the chart shows that there's 6th house energy, which is work or health. But I'd like to just ask the general question. Who was Kohberger's hidden enemy?
Could it be a was or is? Currently. Talking past or present?
I'm going to say, let's say was. Let's go back to that.
Okay. So do we have any?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, because whoever it is, the moving on upside down, number 6 card came out. So he's having trouble moving away from whoever he perceived as his hidden enemy. He's not able to move on from that. Oh,
interesting. Very interesting. Oh, wow.
So, whoa. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. There's a lot of them that let me just make sure that I should take all these cards. There's a lot of, okay. This is interesting. We've got this card a lot, the 3 card, and it's a celebration. So, but he's having a hard time moving on. So I think that
I'm going to take that as a party. I'm going to see that at the
It
party.
feels like, yeah, it feels like that this was a celebration, but usually who do we celebrate with? People we like, people we trust, who are our friends.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, but then we got the 7 card triumph. And this just feels like it's somebody there. I'm trying to feel into who it is. It's just not coming through, but um
It's a
yeah,
red
this,
flag too. It's like it's almost like an anger or
yeah,
and
yes.
then
Like this
Sagittarius. It's a
person came
sad.
in and he was really pissed off about it. That
Okay.
I feel like that person came in with a power because we got the power card.
Yep. Okay. So a power play.
So yes, yes, a power play. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So mhm.
okay. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then of course the 12th house we have we've already done the show of the pool party. And so the 12th
Right.
house can represent water pools. So it could be that shock at the pool party. So but Mars is so prominent here, and it is somebody's anger about now. Leo could be another part of his mindset is the bullying, and
Mhm.
he was bullied when he was a kid, so that could be that Leo there could be part of that. So I
Mhm.
definitely think that this nodal return is super important. Everybody goes through a nodal return. Uh, it's usually like you get a real check with your reality, with your life, and you realize that maybe things aren't as it seems, that you have to make a big change. And it doesn't look like it's his reality check is going very well. Look at this with this big triangle, which is a um, a T square, and what is at the top of it is the cause of all of this reality checking, and it's an earthquake. It's an earthquake uh, in his psyche, I guess. And so Saturn in Aquarius, I mean, that's community. That's in the 10th house again, that's his career. There's
Mhm.
something going on, maybe that he's trying to do with the community, an online community that he just can't do. He feels like a failure.
I
It
think I'm feeling into that right now, if we're looking at what's currently going on, that he almost went into the situation thinking that all his knowledge and everything he knew about what he was studying was going to be more beneficial. And I think that he's having a rude awakening that maybe you don't, it's not going textbook like, maybe you all your knowledge isn't really
yeah.
helping, or he's not able to utilize it or use it. I feel like he's like because he was very almost like, I'm going back and I'm going to be exonerated, and I think he thought it was going to be quicker and
Uh,
easier, and I feel like
yes.
he's struggling with why the time. um I mean, he gave up his right to a speedy trial, probably on the advice of his counsel. But I really feel like he thought it was going to go quicker and he was going to be out sooner. And so there's
You
some frustration of still being held this
Yep.
long after.
You said the words is rude awakening. That's what a nodal return is. So that
Oh,
makes sense. It makes sense. Now, Angel D is saying Ethan shared the Jeep with his brother. His brother drove over in the morning looking. Okay, so his Jeep was not there. That's good information to know. So let's see. Okay, so now I'm going to go and Toy agrees with you, Amy. And now I am going to go to. We're going to talk about Sarma Mangalis for a second. You might have seen the Netflix special "Bad Vegan" that came out a while ago.
I have
When
to
I
say,
see
I got to address this comment here, Natalie. No, I still don't think he did it, but I do think that there was a part of him that thought, I didn't do it, and I'm going to get out of this really quick. I feel his frustration around why isn't this going quicker? Because I don't think he did it. So I'm still on that.
yeah,
I'm still on that bandwagon, but I feel his frustration of the timing and the lack of progress. And, why isn't it working? Maybe almost like, all of his studies, like, if you're innocent, you get, just a little bit of
well,
naivety there that it was
and
all of his
also
was going to help
you're also humoring me too with my theory as well. So let's
him. Right.
face it.
Right.
You're telling me that if you think it's Kohberger, then this is what I'm getting. And a lot of
Right.
that has to do with just the reality of where he is right now and
Right.
what his future will be. Not necessarily tying back to whether he did it, but
Right.
like, for instance, I was accused with flip-flopping, but from day one, you can see the first film that I did, the show, which was all about, the ranger, the background with the army, and thinking that might have been more than one. I definitely think
Yes.
that it's, Kohberger, but if psychics and if people who are very intuitive are seeing others, then in my mind, I think that it could be people who could be a potential accomplice or witness of what they're seeing.
Mhm.
There definitely is. It seems planned, and it also seems like it was very fast. Hard to believe that everything happened without screams. So I think there, just circumstantially, it seems as if there could have been more people there. Uh,
I agree.
Now,
I
footprints
do
are going to
feel
come.
that there's some thread
Yeah,
that he's tied to in this place, but I don't think that he did it. Yeah.
you might want to address this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I do think he's innocent. I do think there's other people, but somehow I feel there is a thread connected
Yeah,
to him somehow, but I don't think he did the actual um
the killing.
the
Yeah,
killing.
the
Right.
kill itself.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and it's good to have different opinions
Oh,
because why
absolutely.
we,
I
yeah,
Yeah.
we put together different scenarios, circumstances,
Yeah.
concepts, because I, I know that the FBI, they got to put a pretty solid case together in order to bring something forward like this. The FBI is the best in the world. They're not perfect,
Yeah.
but once you bring the FBI in, you are going to have. The problem is sometimes is that relationship between the law enforcement, local law enforcement, and the FBI. So they are going to have trouble with that DNA. But
Yeah.
what is a jury going to think when they hear the accounts of this person in his parents' off in his parents' house with gloves on, looking through the trash and vacuuming his car? Those types of things
Right.
don't. Let's just say they don't help him. So it's just, and the timing and all that, and then the car.
Yeah.
Now, remember though, what did we see when we were looking at the car? That video, it seemed like there was more than one person in there. So, very, whatever you're seeing, Amy J, I support it, and I think I think it might really come into play. I think in the next few months.
Yeah.
Now, Sarma Mangalis, she is called. And we say called because her movie is called Bad Vegan. So she is, because she got wrapped up in fraud and a criminal case and ended up just doing 4 months in jail. And I strongly believe, and I'm not comparing her to Kohberger in the sense that I feel like she was a victim in this, but she has the theme here in her chart of a vegan. So I'm going to show you now. Mars is meat, and it's right here. I put the arrow next to it. Okay, and right next to
I'm
or
not seeing the chart,
oh, okay.
just so you know.
You can't see it.
No.
Oh, thank you.
I know it's hard to tell from your end.
I know. Okay, hold on one second. Okay.
Yes.
So now in Sarma's case, she's a vegan. She doesn't want meat. So what does that mean? Well, in your birth chart, when you want to stop something, and you're going to think this is wild, so stay with me for a second. Saturn means to stop. Okay. I don't want this. And you've got a square, which means to reject. And what is it? This is Mars, which is meat, to reject meat. All right. And it's in her sixth house. She would be known for this in the sixth house of work, in her workplace. Virgo also, her work, her routine. She would put together amazing recipes, vegan recipes at her kitchen. So, and, I believe she is a Taurus rising. So here's the thing with her. By the way, you can see her description because of what touches the ascendant. And her ruling planet is Venus. In Leo, she's a blonde. She's a pretty blonde. Okay. So now what's really interesting about her chart is that, did you know that pizza is in her chart? And
Cheese
what?
pizza. I said
And
cheese pizza.
yeah, well, exactly. Well, that was the big controversy because when she was arrested, they tracked her or her husband, who was the fraudster, through his credit card, which went to a pizza place. And so she was basically stopped because of the pizza. All right.
Oh.
So Gemini pizza. And really, who is represented in her chart? Pluto and Mars, because Scorpio is her seventh house, and so it's really her significant other that was stopped. Okay, because he was the bad guy and all of that. So you can see that in her birth chart that she was not going to like meat. It doesn't seem. I mean, she's got Pluto close to Mars, but it doesn't seem like there is an unhealthy obsession about meat. So I think that's the difference between somebody like Sarma, who's a vegan, and somebody who does it in good faith to help others, versus someone who is absolutely obsessed. And so I'm going to go to Kohberger's chart, and here you have Mars in Leo. And Mars means meat. I also think that in his life, he was bullied. So the planet that represents meat is also the planet. And this is I know it's going to sound crazy, but it's the same energy. When he sees meat, he's just obsessed with it in a negative way and rejects it. Does not want meat just as much as he doesn't want to be bullied, which is Leo. He might even think psychologically, what's Leo? Leo is, like I said with Sarma, a blonde. So he might be angry with blondes. And that you can see with the T square here in his chart, a big part of his birth chart. All that Scorpio, that's obsession. And what do you see? You see Mars, that meat, and it's aspecting Scorpio, which is to be obsessed with that, with meat. So it's
I've always felt that about him, that he has obsessive compulsive, tendencies. I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose it, but it's just an energy that he gives off, that he becomes very obsessive about things, and could be his work. And, so any parts of him that he, maybe has a strong affinity to, like meat. Okay. So I
Mhm.
could see him being obsessed about that, his work, that kind of thing. He does have some of those. I feel like his energy suggests that he has some of those definitely qualities of
Mhm.
OCD, let's just say. Well,
We
I'm not a doctor, and I don't know any diagnosis, and I haven't heard that diagnosis about him, but that's just what I feel from his energy.
Now we've got Black Moon Lilith at the 25th degree of Taurus. This is in Algol territory, which is addictions. Okay,
Yep.
addictions. It could be, addictions and obsessions are his main profile from what I see in his
Mhm.
chart. And so we have, it's an addiction to almost rejecting. It's something evil. He feels evil towards things that represent Mars. Mars being meat. Mars is burger. Margaret. How ironic, that. And I know everybody
He's
talks
got
about
burger
that.
in his name.
Yeah, it's just crazy where that would be his name. And we know that anything that represent or the ascendant represents your description. So if you have an aspect to certain planets, Mars would be a burger. It would most likely be in your name, or some kind of meat
Mm.
name might be part of that.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's so interesting.
yes. So, and you can see that. I'm trying to think of other examples off the top of my head, different kinds of meat, but that's going to potentially be in your right. Well, it's going to aspect the ascendant. My mind kind of wandered over to George Carlin. Now, the reason I am talking about him is because one thing that he was as a comedian, he was kind of like he's a raunchy comedian. He talked a lot about the devil, and he had, I believe, his son was on Algol. So this is a devil star. This is another bad vegan, but this is a really bad vegan. Bad is Black Moon Lilith. It's in Taurus. That's a vegan. Somebody who is obsessed with being a vegan, but yet it rejects it too. It's almost like a rejecting of other people's, and how that would play out with his family, other people's food, in a sense. He
Well,
did.
perhaps maybe some of the teasing was about that. When you think about young kids and, I mean, when he was younger, and if he was really, like you said, had that aversion to meat, it's not, that could have been a source of teasing as well,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. So let me get to the next one. Now, here's his secondary progression. Now, you can go to your secondary progressed house to see changes that are happening or coming up. You may just be absolutely, you, not as a murderer, but you just a normal person. You're just exhausted with, the reality that's in front of you, and you don't realize that in that next year things are going to be changing. Now for him it would be a little bit different. It would be the opposite, where he might have wanted a change, but he really didn't want this change. Now you can see this um, arrow here, and it goes to the last degree of Aquarius. Again, communities, Aquarius related things, evidence, electronic things. This was in November 2021. This is 1 year before that he was in his last degree of what would mean his last phase of a career. At that time, Uranus is his ruling planet for his career. Okay. It's in the eighth house of research. All right.
Mhm.
It's conjunct Neptune, which is secret research. Could be about criminal research, because Neptune represents criminals and criminals online. But yet, this is November 2021. Now, also keep in mind that it's also going to be the last degree for the fourth house of his home life. So his home life is about to change as well. So MC, the career is going to go into Pisces, and the fourth house is going to go into Virgo. All right. And things are going to change a lot. And he's going to go from this planet to this planet, to Jupiter. Jupiter represents Pisces. So I'm going to show you that chart. And I think it gives an answer here. I'm going to talk about him in a second. So this is November 22nd. Now he is Jupiter. Anytime you see a T-square, and you're probably going to see one in your life, you're going to look at the apex and find out what the root cause is of this problem. And you can see that with his progressed house, or his progressed ascendant, it's now in Gemini. He's feeling like a Gemini. And often that can show someone who is writing, eavesdropping, interested in communicating, but the bad side of Gemini is a thief. So we'll get to that in a second. That's Mercury right there in the 7th. So wanting to take from maybe a partner or people who he sees as significant others. But let's go to Jupiter for a second. Jupiter is at the apex here. It's in the 6th house. He's obsessed. He's obsessed. And it's in Sagittarius, which represents a college. So his obsessions are at the college, at his work, it seems. It seems like there's a lot of things that are happening mentally for him. And he's getting angry. He's really angry, as we have heard in reports. Now we've got the MC, the 1st degree of Pisces. This can be confusion. It can be in the 10th house, secrets. It can be drugs. And it can also mean that when this is really tough in anybody's chart. When something hits Pisces, it often shows that unless you're in a creative element, it can show that your career disappears. And it did. And it did. That was November 22. It went poof. That was it. It was done. Okay. And then Mars it's conjunct the 4th house there, which is his home. So just lots of anger. I don't think that the public really understands how angry this man is. This was off the chart and will continue to be that way, probably even worse now. I don't know. I'm just saying that this is going to be in that T-square for a while. Okay. So I wanted to just go back to Sly for a second. Now, we see Gemini here. Gemini means a carbon copy of someone. Just on a very general example, and then I'll get to a more specific one. Think about Rocky and the other character that he plays.
Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo. It's kind of like they're a carbon copy. They're muscular, they're tough, they're just in a different element in a sense.
Yeah.
And of course they look the same because it's the same actor. So that would play out in his life. But one thing, I don't know if anybody saw the Sly documentary, but he would talk about how he kicked off his career pretty fast when he would go into movie theaters and he would copy the scripts, and he would just take what they said, and then he would put his own dialogue in that template. And that's how Rocky came out. So that's an example of Gemini It's wanting, it's even in an innocuous type of way. A Gemini might go into a room and say, I really like this. I want to copy it. I know exactly what I want. I want it exactly like this. So it can go anywhere from, wanting to copy something to stealing something, which is what basically Sly, he copped to in this
I
in this
didn't
show.
see that interview. Interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
So I covered that. I'm going to go back to some of the comments.
Okay.
And all right. Oh, Natalie. Natalie was getting excited there. So hi, Crystal. Good to see you. All right. So Natalie's saying, I think he's catching a rude awakening to how the justice system actually works. And yes, he's frustrated. The justice system can be a dark place at times.
100%.
His OCD is a major factor for me. For him being the one putting trash in bags with gloves says OCD to me. Just my 2 cents. Could be, or he studied. Now, remember what I said, copycat, right? Carbon copy. And then here you go. The comparisons come out between him and another murderer. So that would be a great example of how, he is a Gemini, progressed Gemini, where he might want to copy something. And for us normal people, we want to, copy, how a friend has her patio, for him, he wants to copy a killer. Okay. So now what we're going to do is go to.
Certainly that was his area of study, looking at them and just even how they talked about how they would set up a house that was a crime scene and they had to go in. So
Yeah.
I can see him having that desire to want to copy something, but it could be even just in how he investigated or something. I don't know. I'm just getting like a
Yeah.
weird thing for that. Yeah.
That's possible. And I don't know if it's OCD. I do think it was OCD with
Yeah, I don't know.
meat, but at the same time, he has studied, he has researched, he knows not to put his DNA on things. So
Yeah.
also part of his, his strategy, BTK would change clothes and clean up the room before leaving his crime scene. So there you go. Now, interesting, if that is the case, you would think that someone like whoever it is, the perpetrator, if it is a copycat, which I believe it is, they would have seen the knife sheath. However, I think it was underneath one of the victims. If that's what I heard, that's correct. And he might not have seen that. So
I think that's what they're saying. Yeah, that it was.
Interesting. Justice. If he was sorting meat-based products from his parents' trash, gloves would
Very
be
true. Well, and also when I think of, and this is kind of what I thought of too, people that are OCD, they have sensory type issues. And so if he did not like getting his hands dirty,
Yeah.
it could be that the gloves and or the possibility with the OCD of touching meat, even that thought or that obsessive, like, oh my gosh, if I touch somebody's grizzled or fat, they cut off that steak or something, I'm just gonna, so, I can see that could be playing it as well.
Yes, exactly. And again, another carbon copy in a sense, we're going to see gloves. Gloves, it's Gemini because there are 2 gloves. There usually are 2 gloves. And we see that comparison with the OJ case, another kind of a carbon copy of this. So you could also go to the OJ Simpson, I don't know what to call it, murder case, the Nicole Brown Simpson case, and see a lot of comparisons.
Ron
But
Gould.
Okay, so Angel D, more rumors here, but allegedly the baggies were full of his trash and bleach to destroy his DNA. And bleach would be Neptune. So just Neptune is, Virgo is also cleaning things. So you want to do a, maybe we should do a question here.
Okay.
Um,
What
I'm interested, well, unless you have something that you would like to focus on. I'm thinking, should we try to get information about the copycat killer and how that does that make any sense? Is it important in this crime? The BTK, let's just say BTK.
So are you asking, was this crime like a copycat killing?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Is he a copycat murderer?
Hmm. Hmm. I have to get some more cards. It's not being very definitive here.
That's interesting, Toy. My sister's severe OCD. She has no skin on her hands. Now, Gemini and Mercury is skin. Never sits and always cleaning to the point of making everyone uncomfortable being at her house. Very interesting. It sounds a little bit like how Kohberger was described.
Well, I definitely got the mental conflict card, number 2.
Okay.
And this is interesting because look, there's like 2 people in this head when we're talking about all this Gemini.
Oh, God.
So
that
I feel like this mental conflict
look
here,
at 2.
and it's 2, is that, I think he does have some mental conflicts. He is kind of a different type of person, but I do feel that there's, he has some mental conflict here, like even with the OCD and I don't know. I'm not getting, this doesn't really feel like it's addressing was there a copycat thing, but there is some conflict there. So
I think it does. I think
does it?
it says, yeah, is it a copycat? And then we get a card that says 2.
Oh,
And it's possible that and we can
split
talk about.
personality. I just saw someone put on there. Well, I almost feel there is a little bit of that.
Maybe.
Of hidden stuff. And maybe it's not a split personality, but we're not seeing the full personality, because I have to go with Val. I think he's a Scorpio. So that is, there's anger underneath there, whether he's portraying it or not. He's doing kind of sometimes a good job of not looking that way. So I think there is, some conflict with what we're seeing, and also maybe what he's feeling, kind of thing. He's kind of showing one way, but when you feel him energetically, and because he's a Scorpio, I'm a Scorpio moon, so I know we can get dark and there can be, those kind of thoughts there, but he's not always projecting that out. Now that might be good counsel that's telling him, whatever you do, don't fly off the handle. Don't let your temper get the best of you. So, I mean, it's hard to say because we're seeing him in a very controlled situation.
I think that the card in my mind says that he had the perpetrator had someone else in his head. Like a voice. There was a voice, or he was trying to think of what the other person would do. Definitely 2. Interesting how Mars retrograde in Gemini in the crime chart. Gemini is means small. Mars is car, so a small car we could see as part of the clues. But Mars and Gemini trines Saturn at 18 degrees. So Mars, let's say it's the perpetrator and it's trining Saturn, meaning an older evil person. If you look at that crime chart, Saturn at 18 degrees has a connection somehow with an older evil person. So now with, I've got August
Oh,
2021
yeah.
up here.
I have
This,
to agree with you on that. I think there's an older, more sinister person involved in all of this as well. So,
okay.
just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
It's like,
And sometimes Saturn means a father too. We saw that in the Delphi case. I believe Saturn was at 18 there too. So an evil father type. And I think BTK, I think he's a father.
yes,
But
yes. Mhm.
yeah. So now the reason you can look at your solar arc. Very interesting to do this. You can really get some good timing here on what's coming at you, what's leaving you, how you're feeling, ups and downs. There are some parts in my life when I look at my solar arc and I'm like, how the hell did I get through that? There are squares all over the place. And so it's good to look at your solar arc because you kind of give yourself a break and you look at all of the energies that were hitting you and you realize, okay, that's why I was dealing with it in that way. Now, with his chart, there's something that happened in August of 2021 in his solar chart. This opposition appears, okay, in August. It wasn't like that before, it was completely off. Now, Uranus is online, it's something that's shocking, and it's in the 10th house of his career again. Fourth house could be, and give or take. I mean, I'm not sure if the ascendant is exactly correct, but whatever it is, Uranus is definitely opposing his natal Mars. This is a huge shock, okay? And he is absolutely pissed. This happened 1 year before, okay? It's on his mind. It's upsets. It could mean moves, like he's pissed off that he has to move. He's pissed off that he gets a transfer at his job. But definite upsets and upheavals start in August 2021. And it just gets worse. It gets more prominent between August 2021 and November 2022. So that's kind of going on in the background as well.
Mhm.
Uh, the fact that we've got Neptune right there, it is also dissolving. So it's things that are dissolving in your particular house, but doing so very fast. So a fast dissolve. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, that disappeared. Now what else? And it can mess with you mentally when that's the case. So that's there for quite a while, that opposition. And so can kind of explain why he wasn't so upset before 2021. And I'm just going by the chart. I didn't see that anything in the news about that. So maybe that will come out, or maybe it has come out. I'm not sure. Let's see, what else do I have here? Is transit progressions. Now, this is February 2024. Here's a prediction here. Notice that now the inside planets, okay, they are basically, this is his birth chart, the green symbols. That's where his birth chart is right now. And so we look at the orange symbols. These are the transit planets. So they're exactly over your birth chart or progress chart as it is over mine, but they're just hitting his chart a little bit differently. And you have got, as of February, something that is pretty intense and prominent. And it looks like lots of women are fighting online here
Mhm.
about something because Uranus is online. Big, big fight that it seems is going to happen. Uh, Also, one thing to note is his second house was beat up quite a bit over time, and the second house is his income. Uh, Another thing that was having quite an effect on him. He was pissed off about his financial situation. The moon represents finances. Now, of course, this is February 2024, but his moon was getting hit pretty bad, meaning his financial situation. And let's see if I have that here. Transit. Okay.
Well, if he's still
So
in
here's
jail, he's not making any money.
exactly, that could be part of why he's pissed off. So here's the money house here. And this is November 2022. Look, there's something that's shocking here. I think, and we had said this before we even knew who Kohberger was, those first couple of weeks, it looked like he was fired or was going to get fired, if you recall. So even before we knew who Kohberger was, we were able to see in the chart that there was something going on, that he might have gotten fired, or he was nervous about that. It didn't happen until I think maybe December, but definitely his whole mentality is going down the tubes, and his finances. Maybe he knows he's going to get fired. He's getting written up at work. So definitely a financial situation happening for him. And you've got his ruling planet in the progression. Okay. It's in the 7th house of open enemies. So, and by the way, this is just in the early degrees of Capricorn. So before it was, Mercury was in Sagittarius. Once Mercury gets into Capricorn, and if there is, an opposition, it can show a depression. So suddenly things take a very dark turn for him. And, and that was in 2022. So we should probably, I don't want to ask you too many questions necessarily specifically about Kohberger, since we want to try to say perpetrator, but
right, perpetrator.
Right. Would you be able to pull a card that has something to do with, what was his mind? What was the perpetrator's mindset in 2022 before the murders?
Okay. That's interesting. Well, I think there's perpetrators with an S, plural.
Okay. So perpetrators. Yep.
But the one that I think is I always called him the oily guy, if you remember, because he smelled like oil and very stinky.
And that's Pisces. And that's very much.
And I always felt like he was older. I saw a white truck with him. I haven't felt into his energy in a while because it is just not good. It's one that I don't like I try to get on the peripheral because I don't want to go into his energy. I went into his energy once and I didn't like it at all. I didn't like it at all. Okay. So what was his energy before this? Ooh, I don't like that.
What was, should we say his, or like, how do you want to word that?
Well, the one that I think actually is the main perpetrator. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll go with what your thought is.
Okay. The kind of the oily guy I smell.
Yes.
He's just not a good person, but I don't like this card at all. It's number 3, but it's recognition and reward. So what was his mindset? He wanted more than
and recognition
what he was getting.
Yes.
I feel like he may have been a lower level drug connection, maybe. I mean, sorry to say, I don't think these girls, again, let me be really clear. This is allegedly my opinion. I don't think they were into anything really big, like a big stash house or anything like that. But they're college students. I think there was recreational type stuff there. And this guy feels like, to me, maybe one that had somehow supplied or something. And I don't like this because this was his feeling before. So he wanted to be recognized and rewarded. And I really feel like they didn't want nothing to do with him. They
Okay.
didn't want anything to do with him. He was older, he was smelly, he was not of their circle of friends like they would, do stuff with. And so he didn't want it, they didn't want anything to do with him. And then the 4 card, which is foundation and achievements, was upside down. So I feel like he wanted to
Whoa.
rock their foundation. He wanted to go and get his other than reward, other than, let's just say, maybe the money that they would give him. Maybe he wanted to party with him. Maybe he thought he could get, lucky. I don't know how to say that, but so he wanted to go in there, and he was very angry about their whole, I think, to me, when I go in his energy, he thinks they were entitled. They were entitled, and he
Absolutely.
I don't like
They
I
had
don't like that
money. They
energy.
had they had anything they wanted.
Yeah.
They had the good life,
Yeah.
and he was driving around seeing maybe, the kind of cars they drove, the parties, just he sees a community of people where they are having so much fun. And the perpetrator might have been, by the way, Hope and Happiness, I apologize. I think I accidentally banned you. I'm gonna have to go back in and unban you. So I apologize. But I definitely think those cards are so spot on. If we are thinking about a motive of whoever it was, these people had the good life. They had blessed lives. They had signs like good vibes and just everything going
Yes.
for them. It seemed like whatever they touched, Leo turned to gold.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
and
ooh,
he
that gave me a chill. That's exactly.
Mhm,
Mhm.
and what does he has, he hates Leo. He hates, well, it could be Kohberger, but if it was Kohberger, um, Mars is in Leo, cannot stand people who have ego potentially and who throw themselves out there on social media. So I think that that is definitely something that would really burn this person up. And definitely the social media was one of the factors in this. So let me go back to one
Mhm.
thing, and that was all right. I got to share this. Okay. So if now this is November 2021. Uh, what's interesting too is in his birth chart is Mercury. So Mercury is a group, can be a group of people. This looks like a lot of people to me.
It looks like I was thinking exactly the same
It,
thing. That
it's
is a lot.
packed. It's packed. It's a lot of people maybe who want revenge, might have a mafia quality to them. Notice it's Scorpio season, and we have a lot of
Mm.
mafia headlines right now. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but
Yes, a lot of
it's
thug-like behavior.
exactly. There was just an article about what today's, I think it was in the Times or some big article about what today's mafia looks like.
Mm.
And so, we've got groups.
Angel D, thanks for sharing that about yourself. That's brave. Did you
Um,
see your comment?
no, I didn't see it. Hold on one second. Oh, that's interesting. Very jealous of Leos. Very interesting. I know a Scorpio Leo, and very, very jealous. Like, I wouldn't, there were certain things that I couldn't really do, like friends do in front of each other. Like, change for the gym or something like that. Like, I had to like now I'm getting into personal stuff, but yeah, like there is an analytical thing. There's an analysis that happens, which I think happened here. He was analyzing, uh, or the perpetrator was his group. Let's just say his group. Now, let me look at his secondary progression. So, Gemini is the thief. He's like, you know what? Guess what? You guys have the charmed life. Well, I don't. I am going to take from you. I'm going to take what is mine because I deserve it. And so it seems Mercury is the thief in the house of the open enemy. Mars, look at this. It's a trine. It's an ease here. This is a home. Okay. This Mars is an attack. And this is him, Mercury. It is trining Mars. This could mean a group of people, two attackers in a home. And so this is his progressed chart. And it goes to the MC. Now, interesting how I always second guess myself when I see the MC. I'm like, surely it couldn't have had anything to do with his career. But then you go back and the reports are like, oh, the guy was really pissed off about his career and, he couldn't get a job or couldn't do this or that. There's definitely something, at least from his secondary progression, that shows me that he wants to further his career in some way, but he might have to take from others in order to do it. But it's also that Plutonian. I mean, it's an obsessive energy, and he cannot get out of that obsessive energy. And where is it pointed? Again to the MC, which is his career.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, it almost makes me wonder if he was obsessed during work hours, or he was talking to maybe his accomplices during work hours. This obsession it's in the college. It's in Sagittarius. That's where he worked. It's publications. Now, here's the other thing. He wanted to publish, I think, and he couldn't. You see, this is publications, and you've got this T-square here. He's pissed off because he can't publish this document that he wants to publish. There's something that's keeping him from doing it. It might be his job. They're just not supporting him, and so there's just a lot of things that are angering him. Interesting how, the outfit is Mars related. I mean, he's wearing the clue right there. It is just Mars. It's anger. So I think the police are doing whatever they can, and other law enforcement officials, to figure it out. They might not, and you might be right, Amy. They might be completely switching off this case. But I think February is going to be a pivotal time. And wouldn't it be interesting if they did reschedule the case and it was in Taurus season? One thing I noticed about Sarma's case, the bad vegan, she was apprehended in May, Taurus season, and she was convicted 2 years later in May, Taurus season. So if we've got a vegan here, would not surprise me that we're going to see some kind of movement in May. But definitely this person should be put on suicide watch 100%, in my opinion. Because there's some stuff that's happening right now that's disturbing, I think. So, okay, this is interesting. Ghost Chaser 13. I understand that this is about astrology, but has anyone looked at graphology? What does his handwriting have to say? There's such a thing as a felon's claw, as an example. I have seen that. I'm very interested in that, and something to look
very
into.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see his handwriting, and you know what? It's got to be online somewhere. I'm sure it is. Progression 22, maybe BK was trying to take something and didn't have anything to do with the incident. Possibly. We are looking at
when he what does that mean exactly? He was trying to take something.
Let's see.
Like, so are you saying that you think that
Yeah,
he
maybe
was
she's
there.
saying maybe he's just a thief. Interesting
Oh,
how he was, yeah,
okay. I
he
wasn't
he
sure what
just
that
he
meant.
just wanted to
Okay.
take something and, taking the fall.
Oh,
I by the way, notice November 22nd, this slide that I have up. What's the IC which represents a home? What is that conjunct? Regulus. That's king. Okay, so this is King Road right here. And it's being hit due to someone's obsession with something. And now we don't talk too much about drugs. At least we didn't do that this time. But remember,
yeah,
Pisces is also drugs.
yeah.
So this is something that could be somebody's profession that has to do with maybe they have a drug background. Maybe we're going to see someone come in with with brought up on charges for drugs.
Mm,
Now, the other thing too, remember how
mm.
crazy it was. We have a whole Gemini show from a while back, but remember
Gosh.
there was Brent Kopaka. So that was the other person that had the same initials. We've got it's like the triplets of, I don't want to say anything about Brent Kopaka though, but it was seen in the public forum as three people who were related, potentially reported, not reportedly, but the rumors were reported. So that could be Gemini, which is two or more that look alike.
Yeah,
Kind of crazy
yeah.
stuff. So
I mean, yeah, and it's
yes.
really hard. This case is, tragic. We can't forget about the
Mhm.
four young people that lost their lives, but it really has become quite a, speaking of obsession, for
Right.
people, that people
Yep.
are really, involved in this. But I also feel that that's kind of detrimental too, that there's so much out there, that there's so much overwhelm, and with the energy that we are having right now too, it's
Mhm.
kind of that obsessive energy where we're drilling down, and then so sometimes you just have to pull back and kind of go back and look at it from a different perspective to kind of
Mhm.
get some clarity on
Absolutely.
it, because there's so
Yep.
much out there. And I know I even see things and I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to read that, because that's just another person saying something that I don't want another thing about it to come into my mind. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Not to
So,
put something else in your mind, but
okay.
there's the fraternity is so interesting because fraternity is Aquarius, and it can also
Oh,
be Leo too. But Aquarius is groups, and I don't know, Gemini is too. So it's hard.
mhm.
I want to say Aquarius is more what I would look at. Now, in his progress chart, if he wants to look at groups, well, what's the 11th house pointing towards? 11th house is fraternities, in my mind, and friends. And so Mars rules that in his progressed house. So he is pissed off. I think that might be the connection there is what is he seeing? What is a perpetrator seeing? They're seeing a lot of fraternity and sorority types of things about groups.
I agree
That,
with that.
yeah,
Mhm.
that it's making someone angry. So I definitely think it's a Greek tragedy, which we saw and said from the very first part of
Mhm.
this whole mystery. The first couple of we were calling it a Greek tragedy. But we will wait to see what happens now. Tomorrow night, I will be, and Amy, you're always welcome to come on anytime. But tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking about Rex Harriman. I think that's how you say his last name. And uh,
Yeah.
and what's going to happen with his wife? We're going to see if we can look at his wife's birth chart. That's going to be interesting.
Oh, that was
And
fascinating for
yes.
sure.
hmm And thank you all for coming on, as well as those who are just checking us out and curious. You kind of have to know a little bit of uh, astrology, but when you do, when you start to understand that these charts really show timing. It shows when you're going to start something, when you're going to end it, how you're going to feel about it, who is bothering you, and
Mhm.
basically what your motivations are. You can really look. You can see it in the progressed house and the solar arc,
Yeah.
especially, which we looked at tonight. So
And that's
definitely,
exactly true. Those charts have really lined up to a lot of things that we have found. Um, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have found that he was the one to do it or not, but just around his thoughts and his feelings and things. So, and when we talk about that Gemini stuff, I'm
yeah,
telling you, it's crazy, but they do correlate a lot with things. And so sometimes I just think that this Gemini energy that we're seeing is almost like misleading on purpose. I don't know if that's part of Gemini or part of something else, but it's like, let's show you this and then we'll show you this. And you don't really know. They show you like both sides. So a lot of stuff
absolutely.
tracks with him, but I still believe it was other perpetrators.
Interesting. There's a
Yeah.
question for you, Kim. It's interesting about the Hispanic question. I'm wondering how you're getting that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
thank you for watching, Kim. Yeah, anything that you're getting as far as a description from, if there's another person involved?
I okay. So I can kind of answer that in a I don't see the other person being Hispanic, but I see a lot of Hispanic people around him when
Okay.
I was first getting
Okay.
into his energy.
Yes.
So I don't see him as Hispanic, but there
Okay.
was a lot of Hispanic people around him.
Interesting. Okay. Now, all right, time for us to say goodbye. Thank you so much for your time tonight. And Amy, we hope to see you soon. Anything else you want to add?
Excuse me. No, I think it's been great. I just think it's really hard, especially with the gag orders and the things not progressing like we would like them to. But I just am afraid we're going to be in a lull for a little bit longer.
Yeah. And you've
I
been right
just
before. You've been right
don't
before.
feel like there's a lot of movement right now.
Mhm.
But there will be. And I love the idea that maybe Val's seeing something in February in the astrology, because that's not too far away.
Yeah, it looks ugly. It looks ugly, and it looks like it looks like a big fight for some
Mm.
reason. I'm not sure what, but we will see what happens. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All
Thanks,
right.
Amy
Thank
J.
you,
And we'll
everybody.
talk to you soon.
Yes. Thanks for having me.